evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for Good Samaritan webinar. Indian Road Safety Campaign has been working towards vision of zero road accidents in India. As a part of Road Safety Initiative, we have joined hands with Johnson & Johnson and presenting you with Good Samaritan webinar today. My name is Astha Pandey, and I'm Assistant Program Manager with IRSC and the moderator for today's session. I'd like to introduce our esteemed speakers before we start the session. Today, we have with us Dr. Nitin Kimbatkar, currently Professor and Head of Trauma Care Unit at Department of Orthopedics, GMC Nagpur. I welcome you, sir. Dr. S. Siva Murugan, Director of Soundaperidien, Bone and Joint Hospital and Research Institute Private Limited. Warm welcome to you, sir. Dr. Ravi Sota, Director and HOD Department of Joint Replacement and Orthopedics at Max Hospital, Gurgaon. Extending a warm welcome to you, sir. Sir, before we start the question, I ask the participants if they have any questions, they can ask those questions on the chat box. And at the end of the session, we will be asking you with the questions so that you can answer them each by each. So I will start the session with asking Dr. Nitin Kimbatkar to speak on the road safety issue in India and the need for Good Samaritan law. So over to you, sir.
Good evening, everybody.
Yes.
Last decade, we have an explosion of road traffic accidents in India, killing almost 1.5 lakh people per year every year. So these accidents are basically because of poor road maintenance as well as unsecured traffic. Then there are a high number of motorable bikes are there which are not following any rules. So people are doing here and there, and they crash to each other so as to cause an accidents which are resulting in the death. Seen in the India is the most of these deaths are in the age group of 18 to 45 years. 55% of them are males. So they are the basically bread earners of their family, and if they are killed in the accident, their family is suffering from the unemployment as well as money issues are there. If you see the figures in the trauma scenario, the GDP of India is affected by this mortality to the extent of 3% of GDP, and 4.5 lakh crores of rupees are lost in treatment as well on the economic front. And this is a great burden to the Indian economy. So we have a grave issue of this thing. Now you see in the COVID in this year, in about 6 to 8 months, we have around 1.15 lakhs deaths. But we are still very careful and we are having everything towards the COVID. But we have 1.5 lakh deaths by the road accident, but we are not aware about it. People are not aware about it. People are not taking the accidents very seriously. That is an issue of road traffic accident in India. So all these are these road traffic accidents are because of the bad use of technology, because we have a poor roads with a DPR done in the computer itself. There are many engineering faults on the roads. Then there could be flawed road designs and engineering. People don't people don't use helmets on it. People are always mobiles while driving. So these are the main causes. And along with it, we have a very big traffic law implementation system. Policing system is very faulty, as well as they use out of date technology to catch hold the victims as well as punish them. So that is an issue. We have also lack of rapid evacuation of casualty systems, because there is no ambulance system India which is having a integrated protocol is there, and whatever the evacuation of casualties from the road traffic accident is there, it is by the bystander as well as onlooking people who are at the scene of the accident. So we need to sensitize these people about how to take care of the accident victims, as well as how to transport this to the proper hospital where there is all facilities are available, so as to get a good care. National Law Agency has taken up a around 2012. They have observed that around 50% of these deaths that due to the road crash accidents are preventable if they get proper care the initial golden hour period. So evacuation of the casualty and proper evacuation of the casualty to the proper facility, that is important. So we need to sensitize everybody about the traffic accidents, what is the cause of it, and how these deaths can be prevented, and what is to be done. And people at large should be educated all these aspects of the road traffic accident.
Thank you, sir. That was very informative. Now I will ask Dr. S. Sivamurugan to address the audience with questions that how India got the Good Samaritan law and how is one protected under its guidelines, and what has been the impact of the Good Samaritan law with the current issues. Over to you, sir.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak today. And it's quite a very important topic, as Dr. Nitin was saying. More than 140,000 people actually lose their lives on the roads. So which is very, very sad. Things are not going to change quickly, I'm sure, because all these changes take a long time to take effect. We have, fortunately, in the recent past, good legislations by which we can use this to prevent deaths. At the end of the day, when a person has a road traffic accident, we want to save his life because, as Dr. Nitin was saying, they are usually the breadwinners in the family. They are in the young productive age group, and saving their life is of very, very high priority. If we want to save lives, we have to get the people who are injured on the road to a proper hospital in time. So all of us know about the golden hour. What is this golden hour? See, the golden hour is when the person who is injured is likely to die because of very simple causes like airway, because the airway is not properly maintained. If somebody can look after his breathing, and if somebody can look after his circulation. So these are the simple things. If somebody did it, the person would be alive. So unfortunately, many of these people who are injured on our roads pathetically lose their life on the road itself in the first hour, which is very sad. So one of the main reasons is that people on the road are reluctant to take anybody who's injured to the hospital. Why? Because they feel that the police would come behind them. Tomorrow they'll have to be summoned to the court. So these are all the big problems that they feel. And so they're dividend. They don't want to go and address any of these problems. They look at the person, they're a big witness, but nobody raises an alarm even. Nobody makes even a phone call for an ambulance or even call the police. So this awareness has to be built. But we need proper legislations, by which this can be enforced. See, we cannot do all these things unless we have a proper enforcement. So this enforcement was due to the efforts of the Save Life Foundation, who filed a suit in the public interest litigation in the Supreme Court. And legislation was passed in the year 2016 called the Good Samaritan Law. So what is this Good Samaritan law? So the Good Samaritan is to actually protect this person, a bystander, or anybody who's taking this injured person to the hospital so that he is not harassed further. Simply put, so that's what it is. So how does this law work? So now this law works by giving clear guidance to the police, to the hospital authorities, and to the judiciary. So the three people are very clearly given instructions. Now this comes from the Supreme Court. So this has to be obeyed by every judiciary under the Supreme Court. So everybody is bound by this law. So what is the instructions to the police? The police should not on any grounds make a civil suit or even a criminal case against a person who is a Good Samaritan. on no cost. Nobody can ever file a suit against him, even if the victim actually dies. So it can be any reason, but nobody can file a suit against him. So, and they're never compelled to give their personal identity to anybody. So this is another big protection for these people. So they cannot force, they cannot coerce the people to actually give their personal information by which they will be asked to give their identification, come to the police station. Those kinds of things they cannot do. So this is a very important thing to the police, instructions to the police. And if they are found to do this, they will be having a disciplinary proceedings against them. So they will be pulled up. They can be hauled up in court and actually punishment can be given. So this is a stringent law. The second, in the hospital, the same thing. See, no hospital authority can demand the identification of this Good Samaritan. So this is very helpful because many a times the hospital has to fill out the MLC, the medical legal certificate. And they always ask for the details, who brought this patient in, and they ask for details, the address, who is the father, like that. I mean, the people, they get harassed because of this. Sometimes even many hospitals ask for an advance payment for commencing treatment of like registration fees or medicines or so on and so forth. And they ask this poor guy, the Good Samaritan, to pay this fee, which is totally illogical. So he has gone out of his way, taking this patient to hospital, and he says, come on, foot this bill, pay 2,000 rupees advance. So it's not fair. So nobody can demand, the hospital authorities cannot, supposing there's an accident victim and there is this bystander who's a Good Samaritan, nobody can collect any fees from either the bystander or obviously if the patient is unconscious or severely injured, you're not going to ask him for money. So you have to start the treatment and start the first aid or treatment or whatever it is, and we are bound by law. So this is the other important part of the legislation is that the hospital cannot refuse treatment to these people who are injured on the road. I mean, this is a very important thing, especially in the golden hour. I've seen in my practice for more than 30 years, many people have come to the hospital, they come about 100 kilometers and they actually die at the doorstep of my hospital because nobody has bothered to start even an IV line on this patient. If only they'd put in an IV line and just put in a splint and prevented further bleeding, this person's life would have been saved. So I'm so glad that this important legislation by which first aid has to be given to these people. And the third instruction is to the judiciary, by which many a times these poor bystanders are asked to come as an eyewitness. Now the law prohibits this. So in case they have to come as an eyewitness, they've simplified this. So today with modern technology, as we are today talking, so this witness, the witness need to just come like this, like in a website, and they can give their evidence. And very simple methods of collecting evidence, either through an affidavit or through a commission, can be done. So they have simplified this so that no longer do these people who are innocent bystanders who have become Good Samaritans need to go to court. Basically, this is the law of the land as of today. So I think this has enormously changed. They changed the picture. So since 2016, so that's what's happened. So we have an effective law to protect this person who is a Good Samaritan, which is real good news. So what's the impact? What has happened because of this? I have to be frank with you, nothing much has happened so far because the law can be passed, but there has to be taken over by the governments. Each of the governments have to take forward. Like for instance, I have come from Tamil Nadu. My Tamil Nadu government has to take this and implement this. They have to give instructions to the chief secretary, to all the other police officers and judiciary and others. That's happened apparently in Karnataka, which is good news. So that's the way forward. I'm sure all the states will follow through with these instructions, and this will become very easy and transparent for everybody to understand. Our central government has been very proactive. So the instructions, the Save Life Foundation has worked very hard by mobilizing forces and advocacy to many members of parliament have written to the Prime Minister. And this law, which has been formulated in 2016, the Good Samaritan law has been followed up with the road safety law, the Motor Vehicle Act, that is from 2016 and also amended in 2019 due to the efforts of our Honorable Minister Gadkari and our Prime Minister. These things, so we have a good legislation. Now, both the government is behind us, the judiciary is behind us. I think all of us must join together and spread this awareness. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, sir. That was very informative. Thank you. So now I will request Dr. Ravi Sota to address the current challenges with Good Samaritan law and how we should address it. I mean, how, as a citizen, can one help the government with the initiative, as well as if a Good Samaritan is being harassed, how he should be protected, he or she should be protected. So over to you.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Save Life Foundation, for taking this very important topic and giving us an opportunity. As my predecessors, Dr. Nitin and Dr. Said that there are approximately about 1% of the world population, vehicle population, which is in our country. And we have about 6% of the global road traffic accidents. Incidentally, this seems to be highest in the world. And as already been said that about 400 deaths and occurs per day due to the road traffic accidents, and it translates to about 17 deaths per hour. And about 50% are preventable if somebody would act as a good Samaritan. And a good Samaritan person is who, in good faith, without expectation of payments, rewards, or any other, without any duty of care or a special relationships, and voluntarily comes forward to administer immediate assistance in emergency care for the patient. And as my predecessors have talked about that, there is something called golden hour, which is very important, and we can save many lives if these patients are brought in very early to the hospital. And this job can be done by people who are standing around. And we have certain challenges. The challenges are, first important challenge is that as it was already mentioned by Dr. Shiva Murugan, he was talking that nothing much happened after the law came into existence. The reason is that basically the law actually exists on paper as of now. It requires more to do, and I congratulate Safe Life Foundation to really do as what they are doing to really make people aware by these webinars and also conducting various. So they did conduct a multi-city survey where they actually looked into how much, what is the awareness level of the people, and they found out that it is out of 10, only 8 people are aware of, only 8 people are not aware of the law. So hardly 20% of the people are aware. So lack of a public campaign and insufficient awareness is one major challenge which we all have. In another study, they found out that impediments of a bystander's care in India, national study on the impact of a Good Samaritan law, they found out that about 84% of the people are unaware of this law. About 60% of the Good Samaritans are still harassed by the police. About 90% of the people are reluctant to help. The reason is already been emphasized by Dr. Sivamurugan that there is a legal hassle which people want to avoid. There may be a repeat police questioning and a court appearance, which is again an issue. At the same stroke, I want to tell people that there are certain rights of a Good Samaritan, what they can use for their safeguard. As it has been said that the Good Samaritan cannot be faced for any civil or a criminal liability if he is helping some roadside crash or a accident victim. Another issue is that they can also not be compelled about their personal details when they call up the police or ambulance, call up for the help. Similarly, as Dr. Shiva Murugan said, that they need not reveal their identity even for the MLC. So, however, it requires the details, but they can be, they are absolved from this kind of a situation. So, people must know this. People do not know that. And most of the times, actually, people feel that they could be harassed by such a situation. Again, they can reveal their personal details. It is up to the person who acts as a good Samaritan, and they can voluntarily also, if they have seen the accident, they can act as an eyewitness. And also, as already been stated, that there has been a so-called video conferencing single affidavit application which can be given in case so to decrease the harassment of these people. And also we have seen that, especially when you have these accident victims coming to the private sector hospitals, in those places lack of a response from the doctors in emergency can be seen. And as already pointed out in various histories of patients who almost come in a dying situation in the emergencies, fortunately for the help at Artemis, we do a lot of we have a separate budget which we have kept for these so-called accident victims which are wheeled in the emergency. And we do not ask anybody for any amount or anything. These patients are wheeled in. These people, even if the surgery is required, there is a clear instruction from the administration that patients can be from the emergency directly taken to the various investigations, and if required, straight to the operation theater without any stoppage anywhere in between. And this is very, very important. And if somebody does not do this in today's context, it is almost a professional misconduct, and it comes under Chapter 7 of our Indian Penal Code. And also, disciplinary action can be taken against the doctor and the hospital under the Chapter 8 of the said regulation. So it is very, very important that people must know about this. And hospital shall, if hospital requires, it can provide a note or acknowledgement for the person who acts as a good Samaritan. Another problem is that there is no training, and survey of all this reveals that police officer, medical officers, medical professionals, however, this law, there is no implementation. And implementation, I call this law is a law in action. Actually, it requires people to act. It is not just the law, but that instinct which has to be generated from within the individual person who is looking at the face of the accident. He must act immediately, and he would act only if he is aware, if he is aware that he is not harassed. And second most important is that he also would be willing to act if he knows what to act. So in that case, they have to know that probably any patient who comes in these situations requires to be, you have to maintain their airway. You have to, what they call a ABC. So airway maintenance, breathing maintenance, and also look at the circulation of these patients. And if there is a profuse bleeding, in that case, they can also take care of the such a situation. Basically, what we see today, there is emotional numbness of the people as a whole. There is a morbid voyeuristic urge of a people today to upload heart-rending photographs of the victims who are caught into a road traffic accidents. And you can see that people are actually recording the hit and run videos and then uploading these accidents. Instead, if they act to save these people, that would be better. So most important is that one has to also be very, very careful, and also in those situations there has to be certain modification in this law if somebody does not act. So most of the people today, there is no duty to rescue in our country. If we see an accident, many people are, there are n number of people who gather a crowd around the accident, and none of them go forward to really save the life of the victim who is involved in the accident. So basically, this law needs to be linked to what we call a duty to rescue. And in India, there is no obligation on the people. However, we want that Supreme Court, as Supreme Court says that every human being whose life is in peril has a right to assistance, and a concept casts an corresponding obligation on the passerby to help the bystander. So it is not only the one person who moves forward, but it is whole lot of people who are there standing by the side should also be acting to protect and prevent. So how to really address these challenges? The challenges can be addressed if we actually make people aware of their rights, and also when we actually make that people should the law should be connected to attempt to rescue. And also we have seen that supporters of this law feel that law might help if there is undecided if help the undecided act by reminding them that there is something called a moral or a civic duty which each one of us have. Similarly, as we know, in IPC 176, it provides that about a month's imprisonment, those who deliberately refuse to provide information to the police about a commission or a crime which they have witnessed. Similarly, we can also put up this as a rider to for the bystander who does not act at the time when he needs to act. So law can also be extended to add those defaulters. And if you see, in many of the countries, they have enacted the law to punish the bystander who could have helped the victim but did not do that. If you see in Argentina, they have a 2 to 6 years of imprisonment for the person who does not act at the time of the need in a road traffic accident and only stands by just without acting to protect the life. Similarly, in Germany, Denmark, France, they all have these punishments for the people for 1 year, 3 year, and 5 years respectively. So how can I, as a citizen, be aware? Most important is that I can choose to be an eyewitness. Also, we need to spread the word across the communities, and we also need to learn everything about what we need to do during emergencies. So as I said, that we need to do a first aid training in addition to just knowing the law, which is not which is only a one part of the whole awareness. But important thing is that we have to teach people what to do in case of there are accidents on the road, how to really protect further injuries, how to open the airway, how to take care of their breathing, how to take care of their circulation, not to put tourniquets, because most of these tourniquets which are tied above the level of injuries, they only block the venous return and further increase the bleeding into the area. So the idea is to give a direct compression over the wound or the site of a bleed rather than tying it up into the arm or in the thigh, something like that. So don't put any tourniquets and things like that. And also make people aware of the golden hour. This is very, very important because many lives, they say almost 50% of the lives can be saved just by bringing in patient well in time for the medical aid in these situations. So I believe that we have a moral responsibility which we can divide into two components. One is to where we do immediate training. That means those who are adult enough, who are today living in the society, can be trained into a first aid, and also they can be trained into this Good Samaritan law. And at the same time, they are also to be actually trained that how to save these lives on the road. And more training is given, more and more confidence building occurs into the individuals, and that is how they would come forward. So see, today it is not only because they do not know how to act and what to do in a case of emergency. It is not just picking up the patient which is involved, but that is one thing which is very important, but that also many people are not doing. So this is one is which is a short term or immediate, which we can put into action. The other most important action is that we have to go down to our schools. We have to teach our children, we have to teach our kids in the schools about the awareness about this law, and also the first aid, which is very, very important, and how to really act, how to splint the limbs, how to prevent further injuries to the spinal injured patient, how to prevent tongue falling into the gullet to choke up the patient, and how to turn them to the side so that they do not suffocate themselves by the fall of a tongue or something like that. Similarly, how to protect a person, which means that who acts as a good Samaritan, which means that what can I do if I am harassed as a good Samaritan? So
Yes.
most important is that I have already mentioned that we definitely need to make people aware of their rights as when they act as a good Samaritan. So this is very, very important. And secondly, a bystander or a good Samaritan or an eyewitness of a road accident may take the injured person to the nearest hospital, and they can leave immediately. And similarly, they can also, maybe at their will, furnish their address as an eyewitness, but no questions asked. So this is very important. But at the same time, despite all these rules and regulations, there are people who have, as I told you, in their studies from Save Life Foundation, they have found out that about 66% people or so-called good Samaritans are still being harassed by the various agencies, and mostly police in this case. So no personal details. It depends on them if they want to reveal or not to reveal. If they want to disclose it is also voluntary and optional for them to put up their names on the MLCs, and they cannot be coerced or intimidated by any of the public officials. As already mentioned by Dr. Shivamurugan, where disciplinary actions can be taken against them. And what you have to do is simply, if you are harassed, to act as a good Samaritan, you need to just shoot an email to the Superintendent of Police, Deputy Commissioner of the Police, or any official who is equivalent to this rank in your district. So it is very, very simple. And in case voluntarily eyewitness of the accident, so in that case, you can only be questioned for one single occasion by the police. And also, as each state government needs to create their own SOPs, standard operating procedures, where they should ensure that bystander is not harassed by these people. I come to a story where, we had an excellent part of an action where it was very important. What happened in as soon as one of the factory, the people were coming out from their duty, and there were a lot of people who were on the roads, and somehow or the other, one person got caught into the vehicle, and the bus ran over him, and he got a very ghastly accident at that moment. And it was very, very fortunate that, you know, his friends or colleagues who were just coming out of that factory realized that it is there one of the person who was injured, and he was wheeled in immediately to our hospital. And when he came to us, we realized that this person has injuries which involves, you know, it was a run over his body. The bus ran over and it created a fracture into the pelvis. There was a fracture in the proximal thigh. There was a fracture in the distal femur on right side. There was a fracture in the leg. There was a bladder rupture. There was a intestinal perforation. There was a liver injury. There was a diaphragmatic rupture. There was a lung injury. And you know, with such an injury, I thought it would be not possible for us to go through, save this particular person. But fortunately, because the person was brought in golden hour of the injury, we, as a team, you know, me, my team of the orthopedic surgeons, my team of the neurosurgeon, my team of the urologist, general surgeon, everybody pulled in, and patient was intubated in emergency, wheeled in immediately to the operation theater, blood transfusions were given. And this person was in the hospital for almost, ICU rather, for almost 55 days. And we had, you know, he was weaning in and weaning out of the ventilator. Sometimes we were thinking that we're going to you know, lose him. But then then subsequent stage surgeries, we could actually save this person. He needed almost 45 blood transfusions, and so forth. And it took and in the end of the day, I'm really glad to inform you that this person is back to the assembly line and working. So this is very, very important, that if the person is attended to in those first initial hours or initial minutes, I would say, not even hours, this less than an hour, you have to get a patient to the right place, to the right treatment. And if such a treatment is instituted, I think we can save many, many lives. So the bottom line goes that we definitely need people to act randomly. So how would they act randomly? Only because if they feel confident that they will not be harassed, and if they feel that what need to be done, they know it. So that means their first aid training has to be in place. And thirdly, that we all have to be aware that even the private hospitals need to take care of any emergency accident victim to save his life. Later on, if there is some complex other planned surgeries which are involved, those surgeries, for those surgeries, patient can be referred to any nearest center. But the emergency treatment must be given by every hospital for any patient who is wheeled in emergency without asking for any of the amounts or money or deposits or something like that. And also, we should not be questioning the good Samaritan who acts, or a person who acts as a good Samaritan in this situation. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you so much, sir, for addressing our audience. I'm sure we are more confident for being good Samaritans.
I hope so.
So now I will request Dr. Siva Murugan and Dr. Nitin, if they have any other Good Samaritan related news or inspiring stories, just as Dr. Ravi told us. Do they have any stories related to the Good Samaritan event? Anything they have? I will ask Dr. Nitin to speak first. Yes, sir.
My brother-in-law was traveling to some nearby town from the Nagpur. It's around 250 kilometers from here. He saw one accident. There was one vehicle going in front of him. It was early wee morning, and that vehicle dashed on the stationary truck over the road. So they stopped there itself and they evacuated a casualty. One was spot dead. Then other two casualties were immediately taken out from that mangled vehicle, and one was brought into the district hospital Bhandara, and other was taken up to the Nagpur, which is 30 kilometers away. That patient was having severe head injuries and severe lung injuries, but within the time of 1 month, they could reach the trauma center in the GMC. That man survived, and he happened to be a top class psychiatrist from the Nagpur who was going to visit on the Sundays to the nearby town for the practice. So they could save the life, despite they were knowing that the police will ask them the questions: how could they get this casualty? What was the sort of event? What happened? So they took that risk also, and they were called to police station once, but they took that risk and they were ready for the whatever sort of things they could suffer from the police, but they could save that life of a doctor. That was a good thing from them.
So, Dr. Siva Murugan, do you have any other story regarding Good Samaritan event? If something good happened?
I mean, we actually, as people dealing with trauma, we invariably see people every day. I mean, you know, we are, I feel that we stand at their bedside at their darkest hour most often, and we are so grateful and privileged to do that. You know, I mean, this is part and parcel of our duty, and standing there and making decisions that could save their life. But anyway, so I'd like to talk about a very sad incident. I mean, they didn't have a this was a colleague of mine in Madurai, and his brother-in-law and his wife were traveling in a car, and they were proceeding from Madurai to Tuticorin on the highway, and they had an injury, and the person driving, that is my brother-in-law's, he was severely injured. He had a fracture in the knee, he had a fracture in the elbow, he had a fracture in the thigh bone as well. So this was a complicated fracture. But his wife, who was with him, actually was not wearing a seat belt, and you know, the crash costed her a life. And this was because, I mean, he was helplessly lying there on the road. You see, he was lying there injured. And this lady was outside, probably breathing and still screaming. You see, he could still be hearing the screams. And he could do nothing, you know, except shout again, you see. And then the scream became less and less. And, you know, because nobody could, so many cars went past, but nobody stopped, you see. And, you know, at last, maybe after about half an hour, he said some Good Samaritan at that time, stopped and rang the police station and then the ambulance. And then unfortunately it was too late for her, you see. That is the tragedy, you see. If only people have stopped, there's a good chance we could have saved that life. So you can imagine what happens to this family, the two children and so forth. So this is this happens to your own colleagues, and you know, you actually see it and then you feel it, that I wish all of us people are trained and sensitized to these things. I mean, this is what is important. See, we think it's going to happen to somebody else, see, so we don't bother. And it will happen to you one day. It could be happening to your family member or so on. Unless there's the entire society there to help, what's going to happen? See, that's just the problem, you see. So that is one point that I would like to say, that like what Ravi mentioned, this training, I hope and pray that this happens in the schools when the children get sensitized. So once that happens, they go back home and talk to their parents, and then the parents say what is happening. And you know, this is, if this can be implemented straight away into schools. For instance, I would say, if the first aid class is made mandatory, if you have to pass this exam to go to your 12th standard or whatever. I mean, I'm just being random, I don't know. So if that can be passed, and if this can be put into the curriculum, and only then, then this is properly taken through, you know, this is very simple. It doesn't take time. It probably just one day of training. So I wish this would happen so that people are trained, sensitized. So it doesn't come with having just legislations. You cannot save lives with legislations. Nothing will happen. If you want to save a life, that's not going to happen very soon. That's going to take a long time. It's going to take a lot of effort, and it's with the people. The mindset has to change, and then you'll find we can actually save lives. So we are still a very long way, unfortunately, from this.
Repeat sensitization, repeat sensitization, repeat sensitization, as they say. And also a training, build their confidence, what to act and how to act. So if these things are made very clear in their mind, then they will act. Otherwise, we would only see voyeuristic videos uploaded, which are sad, which is very sad story of the whole event. That doesn't save life, frankly.
Sir, this would bring us to the Q&A, and I have a question for you, Ravi sir, which, the way you ended. So you said that it's a need of, so awareness is very important. So what do you think? Awareness should be the first priority, or learning a life skill for the people? Like, we should be focusing on awareness session, or we should be focusing on teaching them how to be a good Samaritan?
See, when you are actually teaching them to be good Samaritan, if you give them a confidence of acting as a good Samaritan, as I said, that this law is in action. It is not just the theory. So it is a law in action. So if you teach them how to act, you will automatically be making them very, very confident. And that is what probably, would anybody randomly would think to help the other. Okay, I know what to do. You understand? If there are 20 people standing, if that two people or one person of those 20 knows what to do, he would just jump over and start acting and do the needful. This is what we want. And this confidence building would be very, very important, would make him actually a good Samaritan by itself. If you build him, give him a training of a first aid, how to save lives, he automatically will become a good Samaritan. I'm telling you, he'll act by itself as a good Samaritan.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Dr. Nitin, I have a question for you. So, Delhi has announced 2,000 rupees for Good Samaritans, and so has Karnataka. Do you think these initiatives will help? What are the other initiatives which could be helpful for people to come out and become more of a good Samaritan?
I think there should be a national level recognition for Good Samaritan. So you could have 10 prizes for per year, so that whosoever saves the life in the accident tragedy, then they should be recognized, and they should publicize all over the country through the media, so that people will come forward for this such an action, so as to get a recognition. Because whenever we recognize the people, they feel proud of it. So that is very important. Apart from the monetary prizes, that is not an issue, but name and fame is an issue, and recognition is an issue for everybody. So that is important. So we should have a national level prizes for them, so that there could be a public awareness through this. Apart from that, curriculum should be catch them young. You should have a curriculum of the BLS, as well as the national death rate of an accident in the sensitizing years of 10 to 15 years. Whenever the people are learning two-wheeler and they are driving two-wheeler, so they should be sensitized in that year itself. There is a roadside mortality, there are many accidents happening around us. So how to evacuate casualty, how to give them a primary first aid, how to take them to the nearest hospital. So they should be sensitized at this age only, so that they could learn for whole of their life.
And in fact, you can make it compulsory for those who need to take a license. They should be passing the first aid test for preventing lives on the road. So they should be trained in a first aid from an authority, which is a certificate course, which they should be having. Then only you give them a license to drive.
Yeah.
Dr. S. Sivamurugan, I have a question for you. Like Dr. Ravi said, so where we can add this skill, like apart from school, in which other occupations we can add these skills? Like, do you think colleges and police training also needs these kind of laws?
Absolutely. See, I think if you notice, most of the accidents, if you see, the police would be close by, you know. I mean, they don't have a clue what to do, basically. That's the problem. See, if they see blood, they feel very scared. For instance, I would say if they were given a pair of gloves, you know, they would be happy to handle the patient, you see. See, I find many times, unfortunately, I've witnessed this once. If there's a trauma victim, there is one person holds the head, one person holds both legs, you see, and then lifts them up like like a gunny bag. So which should never be done. See, if he is having a milder occult injury of the spine, he will become a total paraplegic, quadriplegic. You will add more insult. So do no harm. So that is very important. So these are all the very things that can actually go to the police department. So getting them to understand these things. See, police is a disciplined force. If the Inspector General and if the Commissioner says, it will be carried through. You see. So this could become like that. I mean, it's a matter of teaching these people, you know. See, we cannot find fault with them, you know. We cannot fault anybody in our society. See, we are at fault if we haven't actually bothered. I think I feel very bad as a clinician not being able to reach out to many people, you see. But what can you do? You're just seeing at the receiving end, you know, as in a hospital, you receive these people. See, but you know, and everybody knows the pre-hospital care. So before the hospital, so the hospital care is one thing which will save lives, but the pre-hospital care is as important, if not more important. So if people have to realize that how the patient is shifted, how the patient is actually, so many countries, they start a IV line, the fluids are started even in the ambulance. Fortunately, we have a good ambulance service already. You see, the ambulance is already started. I mean, we are having a good, robust ambulance system. For instance, in Tamil Nadu, the ambulance drivers have been warned that they cannot take an injured person to a private hospital or any nearby hospital. They all have to go to a government hospital miles away. So if the patient has an injury somewhere close by, he would not be taken to a private hospital that's ready to take care of him. You see? They are actually, he has to go 20 miles. That's going to take, he's going to sit in that ambulance for 1.5 hours, knowing the city traffic in Chennai. So the fellow will be languishing in the ambulance for more than 1.5 hours. These laws should actually go. I mean, that person's life is more important than these silly rules. And, you know, the life is so important. We really don't understand how precious life is. I think that's what I feel. So people must be sensitized towards saving lives. So there should be an urgency. And as like Dr. Ravi said, unless you know what to do, you won't do anything, you see. So how do you teach these people? So it's only by the training. And this is, if we start today and then, you know, the first aid classes start, and then the children, I think children, they're easy to cultivate, you know, they will be molded. They'll become very proud that they know how to do first aid. For instance, they may even save the lives of their grandfather, you know, who suddenly developed a stroke and stopped breathing, for instance. See, these are all the things that has to change. And I hope, I'm so happy that you have this awareness on trauma. And fortunately, it's tomorrow is World Trauma Day. And all through this week, it's actually bone and joint week. You know, we have osteoporosis, arthritis. We have today is spine, back pain, you know, spine day. And tomorrow is going to be trauma day. And it's equally important for all of us to spread this awareness amongst our colleagues. And even our colleagues have to be sensitized. They should know what to do when a trauma is arriving at the doorstep. Many, unfortunately, we still haven't got excellent training across the board, you see. So all these things are going to make a big difference if you want to save lives, many lives. That's what I'm saying.
Thank you, sir. So we are just approaching the end of the session. I just need, everyone has any closing thoughts regarding the Good Samaritan law, and do anyone like to speak and end the session? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
To thank Mr. Piyush Tiwari, who has initiated all these proceedings since 2008. He is battling this issue single-handedly since 2008, and that gave us fruit in the 2016 Supreme Court judgment. So we should always thank him. We should always have a remembrance for that fellow who has shown this way of thinking and sensitizing this issue of road traffic accident and accidental deaths. Thank you. So nice.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Ravi, do you have any final thoughts?
I think I'm hell-bent on training people. So we need to train people. As Dr. Sivamurugan was saying, that you train people who are involved party like police and various agencies. You can have these training sessions for various small groups of societies, RWAs in different places in Rotary clubs or something like that, Lion clubs, Rotary clubs, you just tap people in doing it. And second most important would be, as we all have been, even all three of us have been emphasizing time and again, that it has to be started in school. See, you catch them young, you train them young, you make them aware, they would tomorrow be our backbone and a pillar on the society to save many lives. So they are a very big force. We should not miss out on them. So these are two components of the training. One, immediately, which would help us to take over situation which is already worst in the country. And second would be for the future, when we train our young kids in the schools to act as good Samaritan and make them confident by first aid training.
Sir. Dr. Sivamurugan, do you have any thoughts?
No, I'm fine. I would like to endorse Dr. Ravi's. I mean, that's training, that's what will change.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. So thank you for all for sharing your stories. I am sure the audience was thrilled to listen to everything and getting an insight on Good Samaritan law. I would like to thank everyone gathered here today. And I would thank our speakers once again for giving us their valuable time. We are grateful and we hope you all enjoyed the session as much as we did by listening to all of you. And I would like to end the session here. Thank you everyone for joining, and let's end the session here. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for giving your time.
Thank you.
Dr. Murugan. Thank you, Dr. Nitin.
Thank you, Dr. Ravi. Thanks.
Bye.